I used to love, I think it was called ACC PM in the afternoon when Taylor first left Indianapolis. Sorry about your Pacers, Taylor. But now ACC.
It's okay. It was a great run. Great run.
But ACC PM has ended as well. The times change. Times keep changing, man. I'm getting old, man. I was there from the beginning to the end of that show.
I know. And a big congrats to Mark Packer, who, if anyone knows college sports, you probably know the name Mark Packer. Doesn't matter what conference you follow, and he's heading off into the sunset, retiring, and I'm sure he'll do plenty of other things. So yeah, that show, which gave me my start, I guess, at ACC Network, will have a little bit of a different feel to it. I think they're going to switch it up and maybe make it a little shorter, certainly much different, but I'll miss it too, weirdly enough. It was the hardest challenge I've ever had in my career, but it was truly the most rewarding. You know what just brought me back, though, speaking of times changing? That Alexander Shannara commercial truly really hits home as a former Alabama resident.
That's right. You by the way, Taylor appears, you'll love this, on the Alexander Shannara Trial Attorneys Hotline. You're on the Shannara hotline, Taylor.
Hey, so we're talking Miami earlier. Correct me if I'm wrong. Don't you have a Miami tie?
I am from Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
So I'm born and raised in Plantation, Florida. I used to go to games at Miami. I was never a Hurricane fan, though. Don't get it twisted. But now, obviously, as an unbiased host at ACC Network, I always want the Canes to do well.
Okay.
Who's your favorite NFL team, real quick, Taylor?
The Miami Dolphins. Who's your favorite NFL team?
It's the Miami Dolphins. That's right.
Let's go.
Taylor and I will occasionally exchange frustrated texts on a Sunday afternoon.
Okay, but
I feel there will be more of those in the future.
I'm afraid so, Taylor.
My favorite NFL team's also in Florida. We've won 2 Super Bowls this century.
Yeah, shut up.
Yeah, Tampa Bay.
So
I'm super happy for you, Jim.
Thank you.
Speaking of frustrated fan bases, the Miami Hurricanes, we talked about this, and you probably saw this Sports Illustrated article, 6 programs spending $40 million plus. Miami is one of those. They got arguably the greatest portal quarterback last year in Cam Ward as far as production. Now you go out, you get a Carson Beck. He's making, him being Mario Cristobal, $8 million a year, but it can't come together. Like last year, SMU goes undefeated in the ACC. They get to a college football playoff, but Mario Cristobal is finding ways to lose games. Where is he with that fan base, and what is your expectation for the Miami Hurricanes in 2025?
I think the fan base saw what this program should be last year. 10 wins is nothing to turn your nose up at, right? But there was a point at the end of the season where they had every opportunity, not just to make the ACC championship game, but to also make the college football playoff. And to simply put it, they blew it. They blew it against Syracuse. They didn't make the championship game and therefore didn't make the college football playoff when you just noted they had the number 1 overall draft pick in Cam Ward at quarterback. Problem was they didn't have the defense, especially in ACC play and toward the back half of the season, to play at the level that Cam was. Scoring 40 points a game should be plenty in order to win football games. They didn't have it. So I think the fan base knows that right now, 10 wins is 10 wins should be the standard for this program every single year. They should be competing for a college football playoff championship every single year. Your leash is now short, in my opinion. At Miami, if you're Mario Cristobal, he would be the first one to tell you that because he knows the standard of this program. He's an alum and he has a lot of pride for it. Now, going into this season, I feel like there's an expectation certainly set now, and fans aren't going to take anything less than what they saw last season and then a little bit more. This team has had a great portal class coming in. They've beefed up their defense. They've changed their defensive coordinator. They have a great offensive and defensive line, which is where it all starts. My biggest question would be at receiver because they lost their top 6 pass catchers. And then, of course, at quarterback with Carson Beck, you've seen the highs with Carson Beck and you've seen the not so great things about Carson Beck. What he has to remember though going into this year is he's not Cam Ward. Fans need to remember he's not Cam Ward. He needs to be the best Carson Beck that he can be. And I think he's in position in Miami to do that with his offensive coordinator in Shannon Dawson. But certainly the fan base is starting to be rabid. It's year 4 for Mario Cristobal. And this is the year. If they don't break through, there's going to be some questions.
Taylor Tannebaum is with us from the ACC Network. And it's good for the ACC Network. A lot of high-profile SEC, ACC games early in the season. One of them is Alabama, Florida State. And Florida State has a new dual-threat quarterback, Thomas Castellanos, who can run the football and run his mouth. It's great for what we do. If you're the Florida State coaching staff, you think you like this kind of hype going into this game?
I would argue no, considering there are multiple sides to this. I would say no, because first and foremost, Mike Norvell this spring closed practice viewing to media for this reason, that he didn't want outside noise to trickle in, because I do think that was a big part of the problem last year. And look, they still had their normal media sessions afterwards. It's not like Mike Norvell completely cut out the media. He was like, look, I just want to keep things inside and not give these kids who are always on their phones something else to look at from the outside. Respect it. This is something you probably don't want when you're coming off of a season going 2-10, and you kind of do have a lot of question marks as to what they're going to look like. I'm sure the coaching staff had a conversation with Thomas, but in Thomas's defense, this is who he is. Thomas Castellanos is a flashy player, and there have been times in his career where he's shown it on the field. I never want him to change who he is. I don't. I think that's part of what makes him as exciting to watch as he is. I do think it could have been handled a little bit better, but now it's incumbent on him to go out there and back up your talk, right? You sometimes let your actions do the talking. He's already done the talking. Now your actions have to back it up, and hopefully we'll see against Alabama in game 1. Your guess is as good as mine as what Florida State's going to look like. We're going to find out early.
Okay, but a couple of things are true that he said. Florida State's going to be better on paper, at least. They are better. Yeah. Nick Saban's not there anymore. That is true. and if you look at people that have caused Alabama problems last year, it was people that had Thomas Castellanos' skill set, the ability to run the football when things are breaking down. So it wasn't like the things he was saying were total untruths.
No, and you're right, because one of the statements he did also make that I saw made the rounds and maybe upset some of his former Boston College teammates was, I felt like I was the one doing all of the work, paraphrasing it. I ran all over the ACC, and now I actually have dudes that I'm playing with around me to help me and support me. And that is true. The talent level at Florida State is significantly better than at Boston College. Florida State also does now have an offensive coordinator named Gus Malzahn, which Alabama fans know very well as the former head coach at Auburn. And we saw what great things he did with offenses with guys like a Nick Marshall. I think back to that great run with Nick Marshall at quarterback. And Thomas Castellanos has some of those same traits. And we know what Gus can do with those dual threat kind of guys. And he has the keys to the offense. Mike Norvell taking a step back from all of that and is really going to be the head coach. So I think this is a space Thomas can thrive and could pose problems to an Alabama team that I don't care if they have Nick Saban at the helm or not, has a ton of talent. And there are some question marks there too, I would say, going into this season. You don't necessarily know what it's going to look like, but it's going to be a good game. But Thomas, it's no team to turn your nose up at if you're Thomas, but I do like the position he's in heading into this game.
Taylor Tannebaum is with us. She is with the ACC Network and ESPN. She's on the Alexander Shinara Trial Attorneys Hotline. You may be at the Week 1 game, TCU in North Carolina. Are you guys doing your show from there? Do you know yet?
I'm not sure about that one. That is certainly on the docket. I do believe the Huddle will probably be making a trip to Death Valley.
Okay.
I don't know if that's breaking news or not, but that is probably the biggest game on the docket with LSU and Clemson, which will be great. But that Monday night one will have a lot of eyeballs for sure. And I don't know if it's necessarily about the football aspect of it, but people will be watching.
I know, but I was going to say that storyline has died down a little bit. We have very short attention spans in this country. It has died down. I don't know what your feel is for Bill Belichick in North Carolina. It is going to be fascinating to watch.
I wish I had a better feel. We haven't necessarily had a chance to talk to him, and I know he's done some interviews, but they haven't really allowed the players to talk during spring ball and all of that good stuff, because I think they're really trying to make this transition, and I know they know the media hoopla that surrounds it. I have no clue what to expect from this team, because that roster is a complete turnover and the coaching staff is a complete turnover. What we do know is Bill Belichick, as a proven winner at the NFL level. He knows what it takes to win. And I certainly think he's implemented all of those things at the college level there in Chapel Hill. Now, what it translates to on the field, I have no idea, but you're going to see competitive football. And if they're not competing, you're going to see the kids not competing on the bench. I think that's how it's going to work. So I think it's going to take some time, but I am just as interested as you to see what it turns out to be. But that's going to be a primetime showdown on Monday for sure.
So, Taylor, we asked the hard-hitting questions here on the next round.
Yes.
And this is one that I was going to ask every media member that we had on moving forward, but I think I stopped a couple of weeks ago. But better chance of happening in his tenure in Chapel Hill, Bill Belichick wins an ACC championship or he has another kid?
Let's ask you actually a betting line at Bet Online.
Oh, no,
really?
there's a betting line on this?
Which happens first?
No, there's not.
Yeah.
You know this is true love, right?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Like this, if you were to look up true love in a dictionary, like that would be the picture I would assume would pop up. I'm gonna save my money instead of throwing my money down on that. I don't know. I think the latter.
Yeah, I would probably agree, which is
Go better
crazy.
shot.
And the reason I say that is less about Bill Belichick and his girlfriend and more about the fact that North Carolina has yet to accomplish that. And I don't know that I see it in their future right now.
Yeah. Listen, I don't know.
So I'm going to go with that.
Well, and there's only one way to really get him forever, and that's to have a kid.
Yeah.
God. Why have I never thought about that. Now I have to spend my Wednesday thinking about this. Thank you so much.
You used to listen to the round table back in the day when you were in Huntsville. We talked about this. So I like to make it awkward. So as a
She didn't need the show to know that.
as a young female,
Wow.
in your head,
Already awkward.
do you have a ceiling age-wise of somebody you would date?
Yeah, it's
seriously,
not
Jen.
above 70, I can tell you.
That's my point. We used to talk in college about good looks and crazy. There was a line that you could be crazy, but if you're good looking, I can put up with more crazy. I wonder if girls is there an age bank account line that you go there?
Well, Taylor, put it this way. We were talking to Emily Grace, one of our employees, and we were talking about F1, this new movie coming out with Brad Pitt. And, Brad Pitt at 61, and Emily Grace is, 24?
Yeah.
Is he still attractive? And how did she describe Brad Pitt?
A healthy middle-aged man.
So that was a nice way of saying no.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, my wife
Yeah, I
is...
think I would have to side with her on that. I think I draw the line in I'm not a money chaser like that because I can get my own bag if I need to, but it's not a bad thing. But I think I might draw the line at the 50 mark. Here's what's funny: the older you get, the more you're I'm about to turn 34. The older you get, you're someone tells you they're 45, 50. You're like, oh, it's not that old. They're still young.
That's right.
The older you get, the more you say an older age is, that's still young. That's a ripe old age of 62.
Yeah. My principal and high school coach seems so old in high school. And I look back now because I still bump into him. And I'll look back now.
He's still alive?
Yeah. And I bump into him. And they were old, but they were 30. And I was 18, but they seemed old. And they were only 30. So
and now you're man, they were young.
That's exactly.
Well, since we're asking weird
that
questions, I've never met you in person, but these guys swear that you're very honest. So you will answer this honestly.
I've always said that about Taylor. She is super honest.
As much as the ACC Network and ESPN will allow her. Go ahead.
Have you ever been in the pool at the Clevelander?
No,
Okay.
never.
Okay, good.
So kind of what happened for me is I grew up in Fort Lauderdale. The problem is, I went to college. I went to Florida State when I was 18 to 22. And then I got my first job in Dothan before I even graduated. So I never lived back down south. So I never got that, when all my friends went back home after college, I never dove into that. I was working weekends in the trenches covering Auburn and Alabama. I was not in the pool at the Clevelander.
Oh, yeah. That's how you end up getting your own bag, right? You didn't go back to party. You started working.
Yeah.
That's right.
Getting that career
did not have
going
the
on.
bag back then, but we're working on it.
Hey, ACC towns. I mean, we love the SEC venues, and we just did the EA Sports toughest places to play, and it's such a great road trip. We know about Miami's home situation. We know the new look stadium in Tallahassee is going to be fantastic. We know what Clemson is. Give me a underrated, because you've been to all of them now. Give me an underrated ACC football town, a football atmosphere that would surprise us on a football Saturday that we've never been to. We know Clemson. We know Florida State. Give me one that would surprise me.
And Clemson and Florida State are the most like the SEC. Like the SEC, it's just different. Like that's they eat, sleep, breathe football, and it's a beautiful thing. Like if you're a college sports fan, I encourage anyone, especially if you're an ACC fan, to go to a road game against an SEC team because it's amazing. This year we obviously acquired SMU in the ACC. So much fun. SMU can, first of all, they can party. They have the bag. The people are so nice, and they really do love their football. Like, obviously, if you know the history of college football, like this was one of the great teams. And then obviously all the stuff happened and the death penalty and all that good stuff. So they kind of were brought back down to earth. But people forget Dallas is a vibe. And they tailgate kind of replicated sort of like the Grove at Ole Miss, and it's really cool. And they're up to sundown, and they have a good time. And that environment is really cool. What they've done stadium renovation wise has been incredible. And I know Rhett Lashley had a big hand in that. So it's like an SEC style locker room, weight room, all that good stuff. They have everything at their disposal, but the environment there gets pretty rowdy, and there's nothing truly like a Saturday night in Blacksburg.
So
at Virginia Tech.
Oh, wow.
We do gun-to-head question, and we did one earlier a couple of weeks ago. Like, if you could only pick one champion from a Power Four, Clemson is the easy answer in the ACC. SEC, Big Ten, Big 12 is impossible. With that said, SMU, to go 8-0 in the regular season, to get to a college football playoff, is there a team out there in the ACC this year that's kind of off the grid, nobody's talking about, that wouldn't surprise you if they won 10 games and were possibly in the mix in a one-game situation to get to a college football playoff?
Yeah, I'll put the Clemsons, Miamis, SMUs off to the side because those are the ones that you would typically default to, and I'll go with the Georgia Tech. If you've been paying attention, they've slowly but surely, under Brent Key's leadership, has started to make some real noise, and they've knocked off several ranked opponents every single year. Brent Key has these guys playing some real football and believing in Georgia Tech and the brand and wanting to be there. That environment, a couple of times we went last year, was pretty loud. They played SMU. They did some really great things last year, and I think that's going to trickle over. They have one of the best quarterbacks in the country in Haynes King. If you don't know them, get to know them. They have an early game against Clemson, and that's going to be a good one. And I think you're really going to inevitably 4 weeks in circle that game, because I think that could be a difference maker in the league. So I'll rock Georgia Tech.
That Friday night game at Colorado, because you don't really know what Colorado has. I mean, Caden Salter, the transfer quarterback from Liberty, is good, but he's not Shedeur Sanders good, probably. I mean, that's another really fascinating game in week one.
It's great, and I think it's a good chance. And this is why, Brent Key and Georgia Tech get it. Like, we got to put our brand out there for people to know. Like, you're going to see Georgia Tech has a lot of returners. So they're a team that has like less questions to be answered. So I think they're going to be that team Friday night that people are watching like, oh, they're on the radar. I think they put themselves on the radar last year, starting the season off with their game in Ireland against Florida State. And I'm not so sure. Everyone expected Florida State to be great, and here comes big bad Georgia Tech, and I think that could be very much the same this year, but they've got to take another step, and I think there's real potential for them to be in the mix down the stretch in November.
Okay, what just came up and spooned you on the couch?
Did he move?
Not even.
Yeah, we saw him a little bit.
Yeah. Not even.
That's my beast.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's really hot right now, this whole heat wave going on. So you take him outside for 5 minutes. He's a big old 80-pound pit bull. It results in about a 5-hour nap now. So
nice. Yeah.
Same.
I'm the same
good.
way.
I'm jealous. Mine are wild.
The first time Taylor Tannebaum was ever on this platform with us, she texted immediately. She was like, afterwards, she was like, you guys are the only show ever that I've ever been on that a clip of my interview is sent out before my interview is even over with. Y'all have an amazing social media team, and I will tell you, we've continued that tradition. Taylor Corn has, already sent out another clip on our social media platform before your interview's ever over with there.
Yeah, she skewed it.
Big
She said,
fan of Taylor. Big fan.
and she's talking about you, your answer to the Belichick kid or championship.
You'll be happy to know that was not the one. Yes.
It's been retweeted by a lot of people. No, it's not the one.
No.
Hey, look, it was honest. What can you do?
All right, that is Taylor Tannebaum. You can see her on the ACC Network. Follow her on social media at Taylor Tannebaum. Taylor, it is always a pleasure. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you for having me, guys. You're the best.
All right, good to see you. Talk soon. Taylor with us on the Alexander Shinora Trial Attorneys Hotline.